Alright guys, before we get into the podcast, let's get through the rigmarole first. Remember guys, this podcast posts each and every single Wednesday. The first segment of the show, we go through all the Dolphins news you need to know about. The second segment of the show, we go through the state of the AFC East. The third segment of the show, we highlight all the players you need to know about on game day. And the fourth and final segment of the show, we go through the Miami Dolphins fan Q&A where we answer Dolphins fans' questions. This first news story, Dolphins not planning to bench Jay Cutler. This report comes from Pro Football Rumors. This is by Sam Robinson. Jay Cutler has not exactly settled in to a groove as the Dolphins starter after re-emerging from a brief retirement, and he delivered another unimpressive performance in Week 5. Cutler finished with just 92 yards passing despite attempting 26 passes. Although the Dolphins beat the Marcus Mariota-less Titans, Cutler has not played well for most of the season. But the team is not planning a quarterback switch this season. Not only do the Dolphins plan to stick with Cutler next week, they don't intend to bench him for the rest of the season, according to Armando Salguero of the Miami Herald. Multiple sources into the organization informed Salguero the job is Cutler's despite his string of ineffective performances. Adam Gase said via Adam Beasley of the Miami Herald, Cutler's way down on the list of the Dolphins' offensive problems, adding the offense would be better if guys would do their job, catch the ball, block the right guys, give the quarterback a chance to do something. The Dolphins dropped 5 passes on Sunday, with 4 of those coming in a 7-play span. Gase was asked about a possible benching of Ryan Tannehill last season and steadfastly shot that down. So the team both publicly and privately expressing Cutler's support isn't surprising even though the offense is not where it was during Gase's first season at the controls. So there's a lot of things to go through there. Obviously through the first 4 games of the season last year, the offense was way better than it was this year, and that's actually hard to believe. But when you look at what we did, we scored 24 points against New England. I think what we scored only 9 against Seattle, but that's Seattle. We scored against the Cincinnati Bengals. I think we only scored 7. And against the Browns, I can't remember the exact score, but I think it was over 20. So it was kind of similar, but we were actually better, even though we struggled through the first 4 games under Adam Gase his first year. And the problems with that season were way more obvious. It was just because the offensive line wasn't healthy. Obviously, we had Dallas Thomas and Billy Turner starting on that offensive line, and it was obviously a big problem, and that's why the offense was so ineffective. And some of it had to do with the players being under the first system, and we were trying to do the no-huddle offense, even though it worked really well against New England. It really didn't ever come together that entire season, other than that game against New England at Gillette Stadium. So, I think the problems this year are just totally different. I really don't understand what it is, because I don't think the offensive line is playing as bad as it was last year. I don't think it's as bad. I don't think the offensive line, especially last week, its performance was not that bad. And I think it's more inconsistent play than it is anything else. Like, there have been times where the offensive line looks amazing on one drive, and then obviously some other times they don't. But the quarterback play, I think, is the obvious difference from this year to last year. And I don't think anybody could really argue that. Tannehill did not get off to a great start for the first 4 games, but he did give good performances, even though he was he was carrying a football team that was dealing with a lot of injuries on offense. And he didn't play the way Jay Cutler's playing right now. Like, it was like I said, the offensive line in the first 4 games last year was atrocious. Like Dallas Thomas and Billy Turner, you don't get worse than that. Obviously, after we cut them, those were starters on our team. They couldn't make another football team after that. They literally could not make another team. So that's how bad they were. So Tannehill, what he did with that team was pretty impressive when you look back on it. Obviously putting up 24 points against the Super Bowl champion New England Patriots on the road is pretty impressive. So, I think like I said, I think the differences between this year and last year is the quarterback play was better. Last year was way better than it is this year. And it is what it is. I think he had a terrible performance on Sunday. Like I said, there were times where he did get time in the pocket, and he just made stupid decisions with the football. Since he's been here, he's been a terrible play clock manager. The only good game he had in terms of managing the clock was on the road against the Chargers. And even then, there were some plays here and there where it wasn't great. But you can't let the clock go to literally 1 on the clock. you see what he does. Like, there's like 5 seconds on the clock, and he literally stands up, looks at the defensive formation, and he does an audible half the time. I don't know why he does that. It's very, very confusing. He just doesn't manage the play clock well. His accuracy has been very inconsistent. His decision making has been poor. His field vision has been atrocious. I mean, you see people wide open he stares down receivers too much. You see people wide open on the left side of the field, and he can't find them. Now, I think these are things that can be fixed. He's not playing with very high confidence level at all. And to be fair on Jay Cutler's side, because I'm giving him fair, like I'm criticizing the man. To be fair to him, we really haven't opened it up a lot. I don't think we've really played to his strengths as a player since week 1. I mean, when you look at the second half of the Chargers game, there was a lot of times where we opened up the play calling a little bit more, had a little bit more receivers on the field, obviously. In that Titans game, he basically was in the I formation. Not the I formation, but he was under center a lot with 2 receiver sets a lot of the time. And obviously, as a quarterback, that doesn't give you many options. And even when we play action, we only had 2 receivers on the field and a tight end going out for a pass. So, to be fair to him, the play calling hasn't been called to his strengths, which is very confusing, because when you look at what Jay Cutler did in Chicago, obviously very different team, very different personnel, but he is still the same quarterback that he was in Chicago. It's just Adam utilized him in Chicago way differently than he is in Miami. Now, obviously, different personnel, different football team. Where in Chicago, I want to say 70% of the time they lined up in the shotgun with Jeremy Langford. Obviously, we don't do that with Jay, because that's not Jay's strength in terms of just lining up with the shotgun all the time. You want to go under center, you want to pound the rock. It's more, like I said, different team, different personnel. But that doesn't mean you can't go to some of those things he did in Chicago with this particular team that Jay Cutler had success with. So on the one hand, Jay Cutler not performing well as an individual, and then on the other hand, I really don't think Adam Gase is putting him in the best positions to succeed either. So I think there's 2 things that need to be figured out. I don't know why we haven't seen more of those things from Chicago formationally, why we haven't put him in those positions. Jay Cutler's, say what you want about Jay Cutler, but when he's played at his best, when he's made those highlight reel plays, is when he gets a chance in the shotgun, spread the ball out, get him a chance to move around in the pocket and make a play for the offense. And that's when Jay Cutler is at his best, is when to be honest with you, when he's playing backyard football. And and he can make throw, like obviously that 3rd and goal throw, that's a franchise quarterback throw. That's great timing, that's great anticipation, that's great ball placement, and a very big moment in that game against a very good defense in the Titans. Not a very good defense, but it's a pretty good defense with what they have down there. Obviously, on the back end they improved, and up front they're very good. They have 2 Pro Bowlers. So I think one of the things we need to do, and that's not being talked about a lot, is why hasn't Adam Gase, why hasn't he taken some of the things that he did in Chicago? He really, like I said, he hasn't really utilized him well in Miami and played to his strengths. Maybe he thinks that Jay Cutler can run any offense and do anything that he calls, that he's capable of doing that. But maybe I think we need to open up a little bit more for the offense and spread it out and let Jay Cutler play to his strengths. Because right now, the Jay Cutler that we got, the difference between the Jay Cutler we have here in Miami with Adam Gase and the Jay Cutler that was in Chicago with Adam Gase is there's less shotgun, there's way more under center. He doesn't make the same decisions because he's not getting the same, we're not spreading the ball out, we're not as aggressive as he was in Chicago. I think that's the biggest difference in terms of offensive. I think personnel-wise, obviously we're a better football team. Even on the offensive line at the skill positions, we're a better team. Why we're not, like I said, I know I'm repeating myself, but why we're not taking some of those things, I don't know. I really don't know. I think we're kind of being tunnel visioned and pigeonholing our offense into this. Like, this is what we were successful at last year. We're going to keep trying it. And we really haven't gotten away from that. And you really haven't seen a big shift formationally at all, which has been the most frustrating thing as a fan, because the talent is there. It's just that I think Adam needs to go take some things from his past and really apply that to this offense, because right now it's very bad. And like I said, the difference between this year's the struggles this year and the struggles last year, I think, is the quarterback position. And I know Jay Cutler's got it in him. I still have faith that he can turn it around, because if you watch tape and you watch Jay Cutler in Chicago and under Adam Gase, he was a very, very, very good quarterback. And we need that Jay Cutler here in Miami. And I think Adam Gase needs to recognize that and take some of those things that he did in Chicago well and bring them here, and utilize some of those things. All right. It's a very, frustrating subject, obviously, as a fan, because we really thought this offense was going to perform well this year, and at the end of last year they were on fire. Obviously, just blowing defenses up. And we can't even blow bad defenses up right now. That's how bad our offense is. So this is just a couple notes here, or just, excuse me, one note from Pro Football Rumors. The Dolphins are expected to bring back assistant Dave DeGlamile, I don't know how to say his name, to take over the team's new offensive line, Jeff Darlington. If you don't know, just as a quick career, he was an offensive line coach for New England for a while. He was the coach in New York, the Jets, for a while as well. So he has experience in the AFC East, which is nice. And he's a good coach, so that was a good signing by us. Or it's a good move by us. And that's it. That's it for the Dolphins news. It's a very tough situation we're in right now, because this team is just underachieving. And the defense is, in my opinion, better than I ever thought it would be, and better than I think most people thought it could be already. And the offense is just not. It's just not there right now, and I think we need to do anything and everything to make it work. And right now, we're just not doing those things. So hopefully, we see some significant changes personnel-wise. We see some significant changes formationally this upcoming game against the Falcons, because something needs to give, and I think that's what needs to give more than anything, is just scheme. I think scheme needs to change. I really don't think. I truly do believe it's a schematic issue right now more than it is. I don't think it's play calling. I don't think it's any of that. It's just schematically, just formationally and personnel-wise, we're not doing anything different, and we're not doing enough to change and get this offense in a flow. And right now, the offense is playing with zero confidence, which is not a good thing. And we just really need to figure it out as fast as possible, because the offense that we're about to play is a very, very good one, and they're going to score points. So this offense needs to get in gear if we're going to have a chance to win this game. And hopefully this is the one, man. Hopefully this is the one where they can get going. Because I thought the Titans was the one that, they're at home. We're at home. Hopefully we could get it going, and we just didn't. And that was actually very disappointing, because we had a good week of practice, and it was just, we went out there and it was bad. All right, so let's move on to the state of the AFC East. But again, I have faith that it'll get turned around. Obviously, if you missed out on Sunday's action, which I doubt you did, because obviously most of you who are listening to this are hardcore, especially if you got this far. If you didn't know, the Cincinnati Bengals beat the Buffalo Bills, which most people were saying, like, oh, that's an upset. If the Bills beat the Bengals. And I'm like, what the heck are you talking about? The Bengals have looked awful all year, and they're kind of getting their groove on as of late. And their offensive line, I thought, was going to get destroyed by the Bills' defensive front seven. And they did a great job. When you watch that game, that offensive line did a tremendous job of picking up blitzes, and they really had a good game plan for the Bills, and they beat them, which surprised me. I thought the Bills were going to lose. So that was a good thing for us. Obviously, if you didn't know, the Cleveland Browns somehow... the Jets are just... I don't know how this is happening right now. I don't know how they're 3-2. I don't know what's going on. It's like... I think we're in another dimension right now, because this is weird. When you look at our division right now, at the top of our division, well, it's all tied for one except us. You got the Bills at 3-2, you got the Jets at 3-2, and you got the Patriots at 3-2. And then obviously we're at the bottom here at 2-2. And you know what's frustrating most about this is the AFC East is just, it's not what anybody could have predicted it was going to be. Obviously, it's just weird. And we had a great opportunity to really take advantage of our schedule. One, and then take advantage of what's happening with everybody else in the AFC East, because right now it is neck and neck. I mean, it's anybody's game right now in terms of if one team loses and goes on this like losing streak, then the other, I mean, it's anybody's game right now, which is a good thing for us. But at the same time, we really had a great chance to take advantage of that, and we didn't do it. So now when you look at the schedule upcoming, obviously the Patriots are still struggling as a defense and as an offense. Really, they struggled on Thursday night. They really didn't. They missed a lot of opportunities, and the Buccaneers were injured. They did not have Levante David. They didn't have Quan Alexander. I don't think Noah Spence was playing. So they didn't have their starting linebackers. They didn't have one of their better defensive linemen. And the Patriots, not that they struggled to move the ball, they really just struggled to finish drives. And their defense is still very bad. So, and they played a lot of zone on Thursday night, which is not something that they usually do. So they're trying a bunch of different things to get that defense going, and it just hasn't yet. They really don't have a pass rusher. They're not really fast up front. Dante Hightower's never been an athletic guy. So you can really flank them and get the edge because their defense up front with their linebackers in their front is very slow. It's not especially in the linebacker unit, there's not an athlete, like a pure sideline to sideline guy there. And then on the defensive line, their best pass rusher is Trey Flowers, who's a good player. And then I can never say his name, the rookie, he's played pretty well too, but they really don't have a lot of speed up front, and it's really hurting them. You see teams outflanking them. You see teams running pitch plays and outside runs because they just don't have the speed, and you see offenses just outflanking them. They're really, when you think about matchups in the AFC in general, why the Chiefs beat them so bad, it took a while for them to get going, but they do not match up with the Chiefs well because the Chiefs are so fast as a football team. I think that's something we could take advantage of down the road, is our speed on offense, hopefully we get this offense going by the time. But so the Bills, I'm assuming, are on a bye week. Let me check the schedule. Yeah, it looks like they're on a bye week. And then the Jets and Patriots play. Now that could go. I'm gonna say this is when the Jets get their butts whooped, hopefully, or maybe the Jets somehow pull an upset here against the Patriots, but it's not looking good, guys. But so I think the Bills, they're on a bye. The Jets and Patriots play each other, so that's what they're looking at upcoming. I think talking about the Patriots, when you look at the Bills and what they've been able to do, as what Sean McDermott has really brought to that team and what Leslie Frazier has brought to that defense. They do a lot of three-man rushes. Obviously, they're a traditional 4-3 as opposed to last year, which they were 3-4. That's really helped out some of their players up front, like Jerry Hughes is more of a 4-3 guy than he is a 3-4 defensive player. So that's really helped out the defense in terms of pass rush. Every time they go to a 4-3, when Doug Monroe was their head coach and they ran a 4-3, their defense was way better than when Rex Ryan took over. So that's kind of something they're more comfortable with, and Micah Hyde is playing very well. On third downs, even on third and shorts, they really don't blitz that much. They just, like I said, they're just three-man rush. And what they're doing offensively is very, very, has surprised me, really. Is, like I said, I think Tyrod's going to struggle having to line up under center more, and that's what they're doing. They're really not switching it up. Tyrod's lining a whole lot under center. They're not asking him to do a lot as a passer. He barely passes it 20 times a game. They really rely on the running game. So if you stop the running game, and if you look at that Panthers game, that's exactly what they did. They stopped the running game, and they just couldn't pass the football because they're not very good outside with their skill position. So they rely heavily on shading. And obviously, they have a good run blocking line from a year ago, which they led the league in rushing. So they have the Eric Woods of the world, the Richie Incognitos, the Cordy Glenns. They have a pretty good run blocking team. So that they rely heavily on the running game. They're very Carolina. Even though Cam passes a little bit more than Tyrod does, so he's brought that kind of philosophy down there in Buffalo, is just have a strong running game and have a strong defense, and that's what they're really winning with right now. But again, I think if you just stop that running game, they struggle. And then as for the Jets, really, I think what they've been doing. As when you look at their wins this year against the Jaguars, that was a great matchup for them because they don't want Blake Bortles to be a hero. They try to hide him as much as they can with Leonard Fournette. and that was a great matchup for the Jets because they're a great run defense, and they have a really good front up front with Steve McClendon and Leonard Williams and Muhammad Wilkerson, who all three of those guys' strengths are stopping the run as opposed to being pass rushers. If you stretch the Jets out and you crap and air it out, which I think is what the Patriots are going to do, I think they're going to struggle. And they really have matched up with every team they've matched up this year, with the exception to us, which I think we have the ability to spread people out and pass the ball. We just didn't in that game. They've really had a nice matchup with their defenses, where if you stuff the run with some of these offenses, when you look at us, we really wanted to get Jay Ajayi involved. That was a bad matchup for us because they're a good run defense. Then they go to the Jaguars, they get another one there because that's a good matchup for them because they can stuff the run, and that's what the Jaguars want to do. They want to establish the running game. And then when you look at what the Browns want to do, they're trying to take pressure off their rookie quarterback. They're trying to run the ball with Isaiah Crowell. They have a good offensive line as well. That's a very Hugh Jackson thing. So that was a great matchup for him. Now they're going to get to New England, who is they're a chameleon when it comes to game plans. One time, depending on what your weakness is as a defense, that's what they're going to do on Sundays. And that's going to be a bad matchup for New York. And they're going to get, I'm not going to say what the final score is going to be, but I would expect the Patriots to win that game. So I think the reason the Jets have been so successful is because of their matchups that they've had. And I hope next time we play them, which is after this week, we recognize some of those things that we did wrong on Sunday and really correct them formationally. Because I think if you spread them out and you really just spread them out basically and spread out the field and be aggressive on their secondary, I think good things will happen. Because that's not their strength on defense. Is the back end. Even though Jamal Adams is playing well, Marcus May, the kid from Florida, he's played pretty good. But when you look at the quarterbacks he's played last 3 games, it's not all-star caliber. Jay Cutler needs to play better, and he did not have a good performance. Deshaun Kaiser is a rookie, and then when you look at Blake Bortles, who's the turnover god, that's not, and then when they played Derek Carr, he put up 42 points on him, and they really spread the ball out in that game, which is what they do to everybody. All right, so let's move on to the players you need, the players that I highlighted for this week. But before we get into that, we're gonna get into the rookie rankings. So obviously the rookie rankings is especially the last 2 weeks is very hard to do, and we do this every week, but it's very hard. So I'm going to put Cordrea number 1 because I think that his first 2 games as a rookie have been immaculate, and like I said, it's not like we're going up against, Ryan Fitzpatrick or Mark Sanchez as quarterbacks. The last 2, well, Matt Castle he's not a bad quarterback by any stretch of the imagination, but Drew Brees is a goon and a half. So it's not like this man has went up against some cupcakes. So I'm going to put Cordrea number 1. I think what he's done the last 2 weeks and really helped out this defense and given our defense time to rush the passer and really playing to his strengths. And I love what Matt Burke has done with the defense. And he's the best. He's the best rookie on the squad and performance wise. I think number 2 you got to give it to Charles Harris. Same thing. Cordrea, he would be ranked higher if he played a little bit more consistently through the first 4 games of the season, but Cordrea, we've only seen 2 games from him, but he's played more consistent. He's put back-to-back games that have been really, really good. And when you look at what Charles Harris has done the last 2 games, he's been a beast. He made some great plays in London, and then we look what he did at home against the Titans. He really won us that game with a couple key plays. When you talk about the sack that put the game away, then you talk about the deflection on 3rd and 8, that if he doesn't deflect that ball there, that's a first down. When you talk about, I think he had 3 pressures or maybe 4 as a rookie. I can't remember. He's getting more snaps as the year goes along, which is good because he's improving as a player. So Charles Harris is my number 2. I think he's played amazing. And when I say number 2, it's not like he's been a disappointment at all. He's played very, very well these last 2 weeks, and he's getting better each and every single week, which you want to see. Same thing with Cordrea. It's what you want to see in a rookie player of any kind. And I only rank 3. So my 3rd is very hard because Vincent Taylor has played very well. But I'm going to go with Devon. I think Devon, he's gotten more snaps, and he's played very well. And he's a rookie, and the way he's played in the interior of just being thrown in the fire and the way he's played, and he's had some dominant plays. If it wasn't for a couple rookie bonehead decisions or plays, like, he's been called for holding a couple times this year. He's been penalized a lot this year, so that's what kind of hit him down a couple pegs. But other than that, he's everything else, like other than the bonehead penalties, he's played very well. So those are my top 3, and obviously a shout out to Vincent Taylor, who's played very well. All right, so let's get into the players you need to know about on game day. The highlight plays that I highlighted. I think number 1 is Jay Cutler. I think it's time. He's going up against a very good Falcons defense with a very balanced Falcons defense. They got a good linebacker core with DeAndre Campbell and Deion Jones, and then their front with Vic Beasley's not playing, I'm pretty sure. So they lost him, but they still have Grady Jarrett. They still have Tack McKinley. They still got players that can get after the quarterback, and their secondary is very good as well. They have Brian Poole, Desmond Trufant, Robert Alford. So they've got a very balanced defense, and they're very similar to Seattle. Very, very similar. They're the same defense in terms of how they run it and what they like personnel-wise. And but who has to have a really good game is Jay Cutler. He needs to finally play well. He has to play well in this game or we're not going to have a chance. He needs to be... Now, we have to win the battle on first and second down to put him in good scenarios and situations, but I want him to make plays with his legs. He needs to make great decisions with the football. He cannot turn it over in this game. You can't give the Falcons offense 1 good field position and 2 extra drives. You have to keep them off the field as much as possible. So he needs to do a good job of managing the play clock, because time of possession, like I said, keeping their offense off the field is very, very important. He has to do a good job of ball placement and efficiency and make good decisions with the football, because this defense is an attacking defense and they get a lot of turnovers, and they love disguising, and they confuse the quarterback at times, and they're very good at that. So as a quarterback, you just have to don't let your eyes lie to you, and you have to make good decisions with the football. And he needs to do those things for us to win this game. He needs to have a good game. I think it begins and ends with him. One of the things we need to do, like I said, we need to own the time of possession, so we need to stay on the football field. That's a huge part, and that has a lot to do with quarterback managing the clock well, not taking taking penalties when the clock runs out, delay of game penalties. Just don't do anything stupid, and don't put your offense in those kind of situations. And really start off fast. We really have to go down and score early, and get a lead, so we can play a little bit more safe when we have the football for the rest of the half. Not safe like run the football a ton, but like we're not pressing as much as an offense. If we get out to an early lead, I think that gives us confidence. I think safe wasn't the right word. If we get out to an early lead, I think it's going to give our offense a little bit more confidence. I think it's going to get us in a rhythm, and that all starts with the quarterback. So Jay Cutler, for me, is the guy that needs to have a great game for us to win this game. He cannot have a performance like he did in Tennessee, or it's not going to be close. Like, we have a good chance at our team, our roster. When you look at the roster, we can beat the Bills. Or, excuse me, not the Bills. We could beat the Falcons. If the Bills can beat the Falcons, our roster, in my opinion, is better than theirs, or our roster, the Fins roster. And then when you look at what the Chicago Bears did, to them, one pass away from winning that game. So we have the talent to do it. It's just about individuals playing well and executing the game plan. And I think Jay Cutler it begins and ends with him. It really does. So he has to have a good game. And then when you look at some of the other players that need to have a nice game, hopefully Devontae Parker comes back healthy. He needs to have a really nice game. The receivers in general need to have a nice game. They need to give their quarterback good throwing lanes to throw to. Nice looks as a unit there. They can't drop any balls, obviously. So when your opportunities get there, they have to capitalize on them. But offensively, it begins and ends with Jay Cutler. Really, I could sit here and say DP needs to have all those players. He needs to get their ball. He needs to get the ball in their hands. And even the offensive line, it just starts with him. He needs to have a good game. And hopefully this will get his confidence going for the rest of the year, because this is obviously a big game. Very, very big game. So Jay Cutler needs to have a nice game. What makes this game so important is if our offense goes out there and performs well, even if, let's say we don't even win the game, but if our offense goes out there and performs very, very well, they score like 35 points or something crazy like that, I think that's going to be a shot in the arm to them that, yeah, we can do this. We did this against an NFC Championship team, a very, very good football team, and we were able to have that kind of game. I think that's like a shot of adrenaline to the arm. Like, this gives us our confidence back. Hopefully we find something game plan wise that really works for this particular team. So I think it's a very, very big game for the rest of the season to really set a tone. So hopefully the offense has a really good game, and if we win this game, man, I think that's a shot in the arm. I don't think the defense needs any confidence. They're playing with everything right now. They're very, very confident, and they've really found what works for them, which is a great thing. And I think they really found that in the New Orleans game, what really works for them in terms of personnel and what they want to do as a defense. So it's very important for the offense to have a good game this game. It's a very big game for them, for their confidence, and hopefully we find, like I said, find something personnel-wise or formationally that really works for this team. So let's get on. Well, I forgot the defensive players. In terms of defense, I think when you look at what the Falcons want to do, is they want to be very balanced. Steve Sarkisian, I think is how you pronounce his name, he's a very if he runs the football on you, they love to run misdirection plays and trick plays. They love, the screen to, I'm forgetting his name right now, Tyler Gabriel. They love those type of plays, those gadget kind of plays. They run those a lot, and they're very successful. They love, rolling out to one side of the field and then throwing back to the other side. They love that play. I think what we need to do as a defense, and who needs to have a great game, is Kiko. He needs to read his keys well. He needs to understand what the offense is trying to do pre-snap. And so same thing with Lawrence. I think the linebackers, those two really need to have a good game for us to be successful on defense. And really stuff the run. I think that's obviously starts with the linebackers reading their keys, because they love running misdirection. You'll see Telvin Coleman and Devontae Freeman line up and at the same time. It's very hard for an offense to really understand what they're trying to do to you, because they have so many playmakers. Like, any one of those guys can take it to the house. So you really have to read your keys well from a linebacker position. Same thing with the safeties. They really need to understand what they're trying to do on every play, and they need to be very prepared from that standpoint. No busted coverages, because that's what they try to do to you. They try to confuse you as an offense and get the ball into their playmakers in open space. So those guys have to read their keys well in this game if we're going to have success as a defense. So that's a very, very big part of this game. All right, let's get into the fourth and final segment, which is the Miami Dolphins fan Q&A. Let's see if we can't answer everybody's questions this episode. Last week I think we actually did, but yeah, we did. But usually we can't get through everybody's questions, but I think this week we're going to be able to. Yeah, it's, like I said, it's a very, very big game. I can't wait for it. It's going to be exciting. I think it's going to be a good game. I think it's going to be a close game. Hopefully not, but I don't know. I hope it's not, obviously, but we'll see. All right. This is let's see here. This is the first question. This comes from 0930. He says, "What are your thoughts on the fans chanting 'We want more'?" I think the fans at this point will literally, if we could hire Barney as our quarterback and that would help, they would accept it. They just need something to change. And they're just sick and tired of the same thing every single week, because it really has been the same thing every single week. It's like the same movie playing over and over again. You haven't seen any different formations. You haven't seen any different kind of personnel. And it's just not working, and the fans are sick and tired of it. So that's my thoughts on it is, they have every right to sit there and chant whatever they want, because it's just not going right. Ronald says, excuse me, that's not a question. This comes from Estevan. He says, "Could Matt Moore do better behind that O-line? It's not like Cutler has time to survey the field, always throwing off his back foot or scrambling for his life." I don't think the offensive line, especially in that Titans game, they didn't play terrible. They played pretty okay, especially in pass protection. I don't think they played bad at all. There was like that one play when Jay was backed up on his own end zone where he didn't get any time at all, really. But there were a lot of plays in that game where he did get time, and he made bad decisions with the football. And it is what it is. Like, like a perfect, like that play where he threw the interception to Anthony Fasano. He had all day to find somebody, or at least scramble for the first down, but he didn't. He made a bad decision with the football. Ronald says, see here. Who else would like to see wheel routes to Drake and Williams more? Damian got 13 yards on his one wheel route. Yes, I think a big issue that this offense is really struggling with is I think we saw the progression in J.J. in terms of development from his receiving ability, and I think Adam, I guess, saw something in the offseason that he really thought that he could do those things. He's just not good at it. Jay is very good at many things, but that is just not one of his strengths as a player. We have to find a third down back that gives us quickness in the open field, and that just it comes natural to them, and that excels at it. Damian Williams is very good at it, and so is Kenyon Drake. Pick one. It doesn't matter. But yes, you're right. We do need to see more of the running backs getting involved in the passing game. Estevan says, Williams has better hands and locates the ball better. Drake is more of a blend between Ajayi and Williams. I disagree. Kenyon is a very, very good receiving back. That was his calling card in Alabama. That's what he did best in Alabama. That's how they utilized him in Alabama. There's a lot of touchdowns he got from the receiving part of football. And that's one of the reasons I think we drafted him. And Kenyon has elite speed. He has great hands. And he's got a great feel for the game as a running back. So I think he needs to get involved in the game plan in general. I don't care how we get the ball in his hands. We just need to get the ball in his hands. All-Star Gabe says, I think I like Color, but Bridgewater is going to be out of the PUP list. Should we try to trade? No. Even, let's say Color doesn't work out for the rest of the season. I love Tannehill. I think he's a franchise quarterback. I think he can bring us to the Super Bowl. I think he's a very capable quarterback, and I think we need to continue to build around him. I know people don't want to hear that, and I have said in the past that we need to draft a quarterback. Yes, I still think we need to draft a quarterback because we don't know what Tannehill's health is going to be. We don't know at this point. So we need to draft somebody who he can groom behind him, and I think it's just a good idea all around. There's no reason not to. But I love Tannehill. I think he is the franchise, and I think he can I think he's still a very good quarterback. I think he's going to have a tremendous year. I think by far this is going to be his best year as a QB. And I think we need to stick with Tannehill. But I do still think we should draft a quarterback. Shandon says, why are the Saints so good? Oh, okay. That's not a question either. Cypher says, how many more... I'm not going to answer that question. Cypher says... it's not really a question. Anyway, Cypher says, how many more games do you want to watch Cutler do absolutely nothing before we make a quarterback change? Cutler could literally throw 1,000 interceptions next game, and Adam Gase is not going to bench him. Doesn't matter what I think. I mean, it doesn't matter what anybody really thinks. He's just not going to do it. Unless Jay Cutler breaks his leg, he's just not going to bench him. It's just not going to happen. That's just not Adam Gase. It's just not going to happen. He doesn't do that to his quarterbacks. He does it to everybody else, but he doesn't do it to the quarterback. Fly Solo 420 says, one of the Miami Dolphins coach, yeah, that's the cocaine situation, and that was a whole terrible scenario that it's like it's been talked about enough. All right, let's see here. The Gamer1235 said, should Dolphins trade for Deshaun Kaiser? The Browns wouldn't give up somebody like that who showed some promise here and there, but no, I don't think the Dolphins should trade for Deshaun Kaiser. Matthew says, do you think our offensive line coach resigning is a blessing in disguise? Our O-line has been pretty weak this season. That comes from Matthew. Matthew says, do you think our offensive line coach resigning is a blessing in disguise, or our O-line has been pretty weak this season? Maybe. You know, we're getting a pretty good coach. He knows what he's doing. Hardworking. You know, seems like he's had a good past and a good resume. So I think, I don't think the offense has played as bad as people. I mean, they haven't played great. Don't get me wrong, and they've had bad games, but they're not playing terribly. Tony says, will we see more production out of our O-line and Jay Cutler? Can Matt Moore do a better job? You know, I said this in the fan Q&A, and I'll say it again. You know, Matt Moore did not have a good offseason. Matt Moore had a very bad offseason. He did not have a good last 2 games last year. When you talk about how he performed, you know, people forget. If it wasn't for Jay Ajayi rushing for 200 yards at Buffalo, we don't win that game. We just don't win that game. Matt Moore did not have a good game against the Bills. He did not have a good game. The games that he did have a good game, really one game, and that was against the Jets. And it's a very bad defense, and a team overall that gave up on the season, and that locker room was a mess, and they just did not. They weren't doing anything Todd Bowles said. Leave that voice crack. I could have edited that out, but I left the voice crack in. Anyway, Todd Bowles really they gave up on the season. They gave up on their coach. They weren't listening to anything the man was saying. And that team was just undisciplined and terrible. And then when you look at the Arizona game, when he came in for Tannehill, that was a very clutch last drive. Don't get me wrong. That was a very, very clutch last drive, and not many backup quarterbacks are capable of such things. But we really didn't get anything going as an offense when Tannehill went out. He let them come back. So it's apples and oranges. In my opinion, when you look at, obviously he struggled against the Steelers terribly. He struggled against the Patriots. He turned the ball over way too much in both games. He really didn't have a great. The numbers are great in terms of what you see from his passer rating and the amount of touchdowns he threw for. But again, in big moments and against good defenses, he didn't play well. And then in this offseason, he didn't play well. Like, the preseason was the worst preseason I have ever seen from Matt Moore. It's not even close. That's the worst I've ever seen him play. Now, whether that had to do with he lost faith in Adam Gase, because, to be honest with you, if you were in Matt Moore's shoes, you thought, you had a pretty decent few games last year. You led the team to the playoffs. That's a little loose there, but he didn't lead the team, but he helped the team go to the playoffs. And you felt like this was your job. And then Jay Cutler comes in. Whether that had an effect on his play in the preseason, who knows? But he did not play well. He just has not played well. So that's my opinion. I just really don't think you're going to get anything from Matt Moore. Brandon says Charles Harris showed his stuff yesterday. Can he be Cameron Wake's replacement? Yes, I do think he is the heir apparent to the king himself. Brandon says I think we can use Byron as a good trade bait. Do you agree? As a good trade bait. I don't know what we would trade for. Maybe in the off season, we do something like that. We try to move him or we just cut him. But I don't really think mid-season you're gonna see anything like that. But do I think he could trade bait? Probably not. I don't think anybody really wants to go down that road with him because he's been very difficult to get the best out of him. I honestly don't understand the effort sometimes from him because he has the talent. It's all there, and he's been a very good mentor to Cordrea. He's been not that he's hard to coach because he's been a very, very good play. He hasn't been hard to coach in terms of he accepts his role. Not a lot of players in this league, accept the fact that they're basically a teacher now. He's accepted that role with flying colors. So he's been a very big reason why Cordrea started off so fast. So it's not like he's been hard to coach or anything. Brandon says, do you agree that Xavier and Howard as Tinkersley can be a dynamic duo in about 2 years? I think Xavier, has played better the last 2 weeks, and I think he's very talented. And I think same thing with Cordrea. I think they're going to be two very, very good players for years to come. All right, Brandon says, this question comes to Brandon. He says, our offensive line is doing better than last year. How long can we keep it up? I would agree with that. In certain games, yes. I think we are. I think we're getting better each and every single week. Brandon says, do you think we will bench Cutler? Not in a million years. Brandon says, why haven't we been using all of our weapons offensively? I don't know. Brandon says, Cordrea has played better than Maxwell, don't you think? Yeah, for sure. That's why he's starting. That's why Byron's benched right now. He's definitely played better. I don't know why he was activated earlier. I don't know. Brandon says, our defense was fundamentally sound. Do you think we can keep it up? Yes. That's the best thing that I've seen from the defense the last few weeks is they've just been better schematically, and they're reading their keys better. There's no busted coverages. They're in a rhythm right now. as a defense. They have great chemistry with each other. They're communicating flawlessly. It's very nice. This question comes from Brandon. He says, our offense looks terrible. Do you know why? I think it's a combination of everything that I've talked about. I think, I don't think we're putting Jay Cutler in the greatest situations as a quarterback. I don't think we're using his strengths as a player. I don't think we're utilizing some of our players enough. I don't think I don't think Kenyon has seen the field enough. I don't think Leonte Carew has seen the field enough. I don't think Jakeem Grant has seen the field enough. I don't think Damian Williams has seen the field enough. I don't think we're mixing it up enough, schematically or formationally, and personnel-wise, it's very stale. I think it's a combination of all of those things. I think it's confidence. I think it's rhythm. It's just not there right now. And as soon, the oldest, trope you want to, or most corny cliche thing you can say as for the NFL is, well, a great example of rhythm and when you get on a hot streak as an offense was what Dak did with the Cowboys last year. They were on such, Tony could have come back. Obviously, Dak was performing well, but they were on just a great rhythm and fluidity and chemistry with that team. They were playing with a lot of confidence, and that's a very underrated part of football. You have to be mentally tough to have success in this league. And I think that's been proven time and time again every single year. So I think that's a big part of it as well. Jacob B says, Skaggs, what do you think of the offensive line coach doing lines of cocaine? I thought it was just, I really put a bad, I don't know, it's not a good look, obviously, and it's just very, very disrespectful to the us as a franchise, and he's lucky that he was able to resign, and he wasn't just straight up fired. B Dennis says, any chance we reach out to Brandon Albert? I think it's getting to that place now. I think that there's rumors that there's something like that has been happening. I guess for you guys to really keep your ear to the ground, because I think something like that could happen. I wouldn't be surprised, because there's been some rumors been flying around. This question comes from the question by the Brandon Albert question was from B Dennis. I don't think I said your name. This comes from Urban Cluster. Urban, or I'm gonna say Urban, or Urban. I don't know. What do you think, Chris? Is it Frost? I can't ever say his name right either. Frost. Actions will do the coach of snorted cocaine will do to our team image and momentum. It has nothing. I don't think it has anything to do. I don't think it's going to affect team momentum, and it shouldn't be a distraction. That's what you're at. What you're saying. I don't think it's going to be a distraction for the team. What it does for an image, obviously, it's not a good look when one of your coaches is snorting cocaine, especially since we're based in Miami. I mean, that's the biggest stereotype of all time. But it is what it is. Like, it's a bad look for the franchise. And he's, like I said, he should have been fired. He's lucky that he was able to resign, because we should have. I mean, obviously he's going through a lot of shame as of right now, but he shouldn't have had that luxury just to be like, oh, I resigned, I wasn't fired. Anyway, Stevan says, Skaggs, there's a video of Miami Dolphins offensive line coach snorting what appears to be white substance. You think this might have inferred with his coaching tactics? Who knows if he's done this more than once? Yeah, I would assume this man's probably snorted a few lines of cocaine in his day. It makes sense giving up how horrible the O-line has been playing. If not, what do you think the issue is on the O-line? I think it's inconsistency with the O-line more than it is anything. And I think I think a lot of it is schematics. You talk about what defenses are doing. They're loading the box. They have no respect for our passing game right now. And they really don't fear Jay Cutler right now. And I think that has a lot to do with the O-line. Just a lot of it has to do with that. There's a big chunk of it. But also some of it's inconsistent play as well. And again, when you line up under center as much as we do, I think we need to run it out of the shotgun more. The Gamer1245 says, biggest takeaway from the Titans game. My biggest takeaway from this game is the defense is legit. It is real. It is one of the best in the NFL. and the things that we struggled with the last 5 years have been fixed. That's my biggest takeaway. When you talk about, we found our edge defender in Will Hayes, who's been a beast. The linebacker core is fixed with Kiko. The way he's played has just been amazing. And when you talk about, just how bad the linebacker core was last year, and how much better it is this year, and how much better the run defense is, and how much better the front seven is than it was last year. We talk about the depth and how much younger we are as a defense and how much better we are as a defense. That's the biggest takeaway. And the second biggest takeaway is how well we did in this past draft and how well Chris Greer did is, accumulating talent, getting players in the later rounds to affect the game, and he just did a tremendous job. So those are my biggest takeaways. In terms of an offense, I think, I think the offensive line is playing better than it had the best game that it had in a while. I think we really found something personnel-wise in terms of Anthony Fasano being in there more. It really helped us in the running game. Marquise Gray was a great run blocker, and it's very obviously that's a big part of it. Running the ball is, if your tight end isn't winning his matchup, it's going to be very hard to run the ball under center. So now that Anthony's playing, I think the run blocking has been way, way better, and I think those are my biggest takeaways from the Titans game. The Gamer12345 says, how do you think Cordrea did this week? He did amazing. The Gamer12345 says, I feel Baker Mayfield is projected to be a second-round pick. If he fell to the Dolphins in the second round, would you take him? Would I personally take him? It depending on who is left on the board. But I would not. I'm not the only. I have one question for him: is can his game translate to the NFL? And if it can, then he has everything else. He has poise. He has touch on the football. His ball placement is nice. He's great football instincts and great pocket presence. So it's just, can his game translate to the NFL? The game, because he's just a small dude. The Gamer12345 says, should Dolphins trade for Cody Kessler? No. The Gamer12345 says, we need Jay Ajayi in the end zone. Agree. Yeah, we need to utilize him big time in the end zone. A whole lot more. I think people are like, why aren't we running it when we get in the red zone? Valid point. Great point. I think a lot of it had to do with really trying to get Jay Cutler going, confidence-wise. Throwing a touchdown's big as a quarterback. It kind of gets you going, get your confidence back a little bit. I think that was a reason. I think it's some of the looks the defense has given us. They expect us to run the football down there, and we had a great matchup against the Saints with Julius on a corner. So I think it's a mixture of both of those things. Let's see here. Barnes says, Cutler is buns. How many games do we have to lose before we start more? Defense won us this game. You're absolutely right. The defense won us this game against the Titans. It's never going to happen. Like I said, it doesn't matter how much bad Jay plays. He's never going to get benched. Ethan, because that's just Adam's. Adam will literally lose his job before he lets the quarterback lose his. Ethan says, if Rashad Jones hadn't gotten that fumble return for a touchdown, I believe we would have lost. We are so talented. We are too talented to rely on hero plays to win instead of a team effort. You're absolutely right. We should have blown them out. But the offense just played terrible. And it is what it is. We got to get back in a groove. Ethan says, do you think the Dolphins will keep Cutler, keep Tannehill, or draft a new quarterback next season? I think we will draft. I think Tannehill's going to be the guy. But I think we will draft a quarterback next year for sure. Fly Solo 420 says, offense was terrible. Receivers dropping passes. They have no confidence in Cutler. Where is the left guard we drafted in the 5th round? They need to put him in. A lot of drops, just a lot of mental errors in that game. A lot of things we've just been talking about this entire episode. Fly Solo says, we need to see, we can see that Cutler is out of it. He has fire and lost this team. He is so nonchalant out there. If Tennessee had Mariota out there, we would have lost this game. I don't know. But if the offense performed the way they did again, if Mariota was out there, it would be very tough to win that game. Fly Solo says, did you see what we talked about the Jaguars Steelers game. Fly Solo says, why didn't we put in Drake on punt returns? Landry's getting out there, get hurt if they keep putting him out there. But I think that's what they want. I don't understand why Kenyon hasn't been more involved in special teams. I think we do. The only reason he hasn't been put on punts is he's just not used to it. apparently he's not the greatest at fielding them. So, it's more than just catching a ball and then running. It's fielding a punt is very hard. And apparently, he just hasn't been very good at that in practice. That's why you haven't really seen him out there. Dwight Keller Williams says, Miami's front seven is godlike. Yes, it is. Dwight Keller Williams says, Miami's in deep need for something, probably somebody with some balls. I mean, having a plan is great and all, but if the plan isn't working, someone needs to have some balls and step up and say, hey, quote, hey, I think that isn't working, so let's try something else and try it again here or somewhere. Yeah, you make a great point. Notice Patrick says, why is Jay playing so bad? I think it's a mixture of everything that we've talked about. Notice Patrick says, should we worry about Devontae Parker? A little bit. I am a little bit worried that he'll miss this game. Notice Patrick says, our defense looked really good. I know Mariota didn't play. What are your three biggest... Even if he didn't, who cares, dude? That's just a great performance by a defense. I don't care who is out there. Is Jay Cutler actually? Yes, he is our best chance of winning. D-Max says, do you think the Dolphins can turn things around? That question came from Notice Patrick. He says, D-Max says, do you think the Dolphins can turn things around after this win and get the offense going? Yes, I think if they have a good performance in this game in particular, I think they will. Dwight Keller Williams says, is the Dolphins defense the best defense in the NFL right now? It seems like a complete meme, to be quite honest. I am completely beside myself. At the play calling, being the screen, never going to give screens up. Rick rolled by Adam Gase. Meme offense is bad. If meme offense can't meme, also will the Dolphins take home the Lombardi? Yeah, that's a lot to take in there, Dwight. Ronald says left guard, right guard is still an issue. One plan stands out where Steen didn't even the DT was supposed to be a screen that was wide open with Landry sliding his man 18 yards down the field. All Steen had to do was hold the dude up, then fly out to the flat. Can Miami figure out the O-line, or is it something for the offseason again? I think the offensive line, yeah, there are stupid things when that happens. I think personnel, we just need to stop running schemes because, like I said, we just cannot execute them. Ronald, and that's a great example of that. Ronald says, am I the only person who wants to see Carew play for the injured Parker and not drops Grant? No, I think I want to see Jakeem, to be honest with you. I think Jakeem has been very good as of late. Ronald says Branch 2 sacks, Kiko strip sack, Wake a half of a sack, Jones half of a sack, Harris with the sack, Sue sack. Are we finally seeing the D-line starting to click? It was clicking before. It just we weren't winning games. Ronald says, it's finally nice to see the rust fall off Rashad and finally start to look like the Pro Bowler that got hurt last season. Right, or am I high? No, you're absolutely right. Rashad's playing amazing. Ronald says Tinkersley is a legit shutdown corner. Only one catch for 7 yards on him. He was slamming the line of scrimmage in the running game. Sometimes got there faster than Maluka. Do you agree? Yeah, he's been playing amazing football. Ronald says, will the Dolphins ever get a legit tight end? I haven't seen one since the perfect season. I think the rotation that we have now is going to be very successful for the rest of the year. Playing Fasano more and Thomas less. Just because saving Thomas for obvious passing downs, I think, is an obvious good thing. Ronald says, when will Julius... I think Julius Thomas is playing better. I think he had one of the bigger plays of the game. Ronald says, watch him play... Oh, okay. Ronnie Hill says, why do you think the phone Anthony should... Stephon Anthony, excuse me. Said phone. Anthony should start. Do you think he should? No, I think we can use him as depth. He has a long ways to go in terms of a playbook and stuff of that nature. Gamerific says, how good was defense? How good was our defense? I say 9 out of 10. I think they were getting tired, but I guess not. No, they were just fire all day. What are your thoughts on our starting rookies and what happened to the rookies? They were on fire. Dude, they are really playing well. They are really, really good. Should the Dolphins adjust to more quick, this comes from Jose, so should the Dolphins adjust to more quick down the field slant plays? It looks like Cutler does very well in those. Also, it doesn't seem like the offense doesn't know what plays are called, then line up. I blame it on Cutler not putting enough effort on learning. He knows the playbook by like his back of his hand. This is his second year in this offense. I think you make a point that we need to open it up a little bit more. This question comes from Antoine Jackson. He says, do you still have faith in Jay Cutler? I think he has been playing some pretty good football. Yes, I do think I still have faith in him despite the performances. And that is going to be it, guys, for this fan Q&A. Wasn't able to get everybody's. I was close. Some of the questions we missed was from Ricky Ricardo, D. Anthony, and Axel. So those are some of the questions that we missed, but hopefully the shout out kind of redeems me anyway. But that has been the podcast for this week. I hope you guys enjoyed, and I will see you guys in the next one.